Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thanks for joining us. You're listening to Building Pickleball, where I interview pickleball company and brand founders to uncover their story as a founder, their idea, setbacks, failures, and their contribution to the fastest growing sport, pickleball. Our guest today is Ryan Cohen, co founder of Volair Pickleball. Thanks for joining us, Ryan. Can you go ahead and tell us a little about yourself?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. So it's pretty cool because everyone that plays pickleball, the connections you get to make through playing the sport. I've met so many new friends and people to collaborate with, and actually met you, Brian, playing pickleball even before Volair was even thought of, which is pretty cool. So just a little background. Um, I've known Julian Arnold since I was like 11 years old. We both grew up in San Luis Obispo, California. He was a superstar tennis player since the day I met him. And, that was his main sport. I love to play basketball and football, but we both would play basketball together a lot. So that's how we bonded. And so it just became really good friends. And, after high school, he went off to UCLA to play tennis, and I went into my family business, which was restaurants. And so I thought that was like going to be my career path. And, I was just working in a family restaurant for a while. And I got to a point where I had like a side business that was doing pretty well. So I went on to pursue buying and selling tickets for concerts and live music festivals and sporting events as a full-time job. I'd been doing it as a side hustle since I was 13. So when I was, I think about 19, I was already doing that full time. And I kind of told my dad, hey, I got one more year. And, then I'm out of the restaurant business, which, I thought I was going to do restaurants my whole life growing up. That was my dream. So fast forward a little bit later, I've been doing the ticket business for a while. I have a few other businesses also, but then when Corona happened, I went from playing basketball like 4 or 5 days a week at the gym, and then they closed all the gyms because of Corona. And I live in Austin, Texas, so I actually had a buddy that had grown up with Julian and myself that also lives in Austin. His name's Zach. And he kept asking me, hey, you want to come play pickleball? You want to come play pickleball? And I was like, I don't know if I know what that sport is. And I was kind of hesitant at first. But then he was like, hey, I'm at Bolden Acres right across the street from where you live. Let's go play some pickleball. And I was like, man, I need to go get some exercise. So I went over there, had so much fun. Like, obviously, I didn't even learn all the rules in my first time playing. But I just felt that it was just such a fun activity. I didn't really have a racket sports background. But when I play basketball or football, like I'm a hustler, I'm a grinder. So I was able to have a good time, like playing pickleball and feeling that I was truly competing. And, from there, I kind of got hooked. And I had a lot of free time during Corona because, again, my main business is tickets for live entertainment, and they pretty much put a halt on that whole industry. So I went from working full time to just having a lot of free time. And so I was playing pickleball 2, 3, 4 hours a day in the morning so that I could be tired and not feel like I was like being unproductive. I at least felt like I got a really good workout. And as I'm getting addicted to pickleball, I was doing this with my girlfriend at the same, we're getting addicted at the same time. I would call up Julian, who was still living in San Luis Obispo, and he was doing tennis lessons because he had made a name for himself locally as a really good tennis player. So he was doing tennis lessons, and I'd reach out to him and be like, hey, Julian, you got to play pickleball. Like, I'm telling you, I think you could be really good. And he kind of just had like what I would consider the typical tennis player attitude of like, no, like that sport's easy. Like, tennis is where it's at. Like that sport's, it's just not as competitive. It's not hard. And so I kept just calling him and just bothering him, being like, hey man, you got to check out pickleball. And one time or before this, I looked online because I was just like, I want to go on a vacation, but I also want to learn how to play pickleball and get better. And at the time, I had a couple lessons locally here in Austin. Ryan Newman had actually came through, and I got a lesson from him. And so I was starting to actually learn strategy and learn the game, but I still did not know a lot of the game. I was still fairly new to it. So my girlfriend and I went to one of the Ben John's pickleball getaway camps, and it was in Mexico. And so we went out there for 5-6 days, and got to see what the top level pros were playing at. And even though when they were playing, everyone was oohing and awing, but like I knew I was like they're playing like 60%. Like I understand how they're not going to go out there and go play 100% unless they really need to bring it. So yeah, learned how to actually play pickleball at that camp. And while I was there, I got to know a lot of the top pros at the time. Michelle, Rob, Colin, Ben. Those were the main pros that were teaching. And the average age of the camp was probably like 60, 70. And right now I'm 32. So I think I was 29 at the time, or 30. And so we got to hang out with a lot of the pros, like, when we were like off, not during the camp, but like throughout the rest of the week in Mexico, just because we were a little closer in age. So got to know them really well. And so that was a cool experience, something usually where in other sports, at least from my experience, you don't get to mingle with the top, the best of the best, and, have those experiences, because usually they're just like, have thousands of fans just, trying to get a glimpse or a second with them. And, that wasn't the situation. And, pickleball is still fairly new. And like now there's a lot more celebrities that are interested, but before and still now, like pickleball, you can still reach out to your favorite player and you might get a response, which is really cool. So while I was there, at the end of the camp, I told Ben Johns, I was like, hey, my buddy is really good. He was a really good tennis player growing up. And, I'm going to try to get him into pickleball and have him compete as a top pro. And I said to him, the day that, Julian beats you, like, just remember, like, it's your fault. You got me hooked on pickleball. You got me, wanting to continue to like play and just have pickleball as part of my life. So fast forward a little later, I think it was Thanksgiving. I was back in St. Louis, and I think Julian had maybe played a couple times by then. And he had some clients that he taught tennis to that had said to him, hey, you should look into pickleball. You should teach pickleball. And at the same time, I was calling Julian like, hey, you got to play pickleball. So during Thanksgiving, I, kind of was like, hey, come play. Just, I know it may not be fun, but just do it for me. Like, I want to, have this experience. So it was my girlfriend, my dad, Julian, and myself. And my dad had just done like an extremely hard hike where we were just like, man, like, okay, I guess we're going to go play pickleball. And so my dad couldn't even bend his knees. It was his first time ever playing. So he was just not having fun because he likes to compete. And he was just like, man, I can't even hit the ball. I'm like, yeah, you got to bend your knees. So it was Julian and my dad versus my girlfriend and myself. And we won the first game. And, I told, we had a good time, but, Julian reached out to me later and said, hey, that was a lot of fun. Not that it was competitive or serious, but he's just like, that was just fun. Like, we're out there laughing, having a good time. And so then I'm still just keeping in contact with Julian, and I don't know, maybe another month and a half goes by, and he's like, hey, I'm hooked. Like, I've been playing multiple times a week. I'm having so much fun. And he's like, I think I'm getting pretty good at this. And I was like, oh, I believe you. And so he's like, I'm signing up for a tournament. And, Julian, he's a competitor. He signed up at the pro level. He had never competed at pickleball. He'd only been playing for a couple months. And the level that he was competing against, no pros, some 5.0s, some 4.5s, that was the competition that he was, practicing against. So he didn't really know, how he stacked up. He entered a tournament. I forgot who he lost to, but he lost, I think he got like through the qualifier, but then, he lost to like a pretty good pro. And, we had a couple conversations, and I was like, hey, like, do you want to try to do this? Like, is this something that like you want to pursue? And like, do we think we can do this? And, we were both excited, and we're both like, yeah, we think we can do this. And so my biggest fear was that we were going to pursue this. And, if for any reason one of us felt like we had let the other person down, that would like hurt our friendship. And so that was a really big fear of both of ours. So luckily, I reached out to Ben, and I was like, hey, like, I got my buddy. He's like starting to play pro, or wants to play pro. And do you have any like pro trainers that, I could have him sent to and just like kind of check him out, see how good he is?
Can I pause you there?
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to rewind. This was interesting. I mean, it's definitely fascinating that this happened all like within a 2-year span. But kind of rewinding and going back, what was your role in the family business with the restaurants?
Yeah. Yeah. So ever since I was, I don't know, I'd say like, I don't know, 8, 9 years old, like I was working my summers in a family restaurant. It was dishwasher for like 5 years. And my dad really had, the attitude of like, hey, one day this could all be yours. And if you want it to be like, there's like a path to be really successful at it. And, his path was all about really learning each and every job and every aspect of the business, so that, as later, when you're working with someone, you can know, hey, that person is actually like doing what they're capable of, or, I'm asking stuff that's unreasonable of them. So, I pretty much did every single job in a restaurant growing up. 5 years as a dishwasher. I was a busser for 5, 6 years also. But like at the same time, while I was bussing at the end, I started serving when I was old enough to. I did not cook. I was not in the kitchen at all. My dad more had me focusing on the business side of it, instead of the kitchen side of it. Which, now looking back, everyone's like, "Wait, you grew up in a restaurant? You don't know how to cook well?" I'm like, "No, I focused on everything else." So then, yeah, I did some bartending. I was pretty slow at that, so I did not enjoy that too much. But I got into managing, I think when I was like 19, or 18 or 19, I started managing full time. And yeah, I thought that was my career path for the rest of my life. And again, I thought that at a very young age. And then I got to the point where I have a lot of creative ideas and a lot of things that I wanted to do, whether it was in the restaurant or outside the restaurant, business ideas mostly. And yeah, with all these ideas, like I wanted to go pursue them. And I'd have ideas in the restaurant, but my family restaurant was ran so well that, like, when I would manage, I was pretty much like babysitting my dad's like perfectly oiled machine. And so there wasn't too much creativity on my part, and there wasn't really, everything was good. A lot of the workers had worked with him for 20, 30 years. So like they all knew exactly what was expected. And they would actually, like, if there was a new worker that came in, they would kind of like keep them, in, on the team, and be like, hey, like, this is what we expect. It wasn't just coming from management or the owner. It was coming from, this family that had grown up, for years. And my dad, when I was young, had a seafood restaurant in Avila Beach called Old Port Inn. It doesn't exist anymore. But then he opened another restaurant when I was in high school called Chipino, and that was, so he had 2 seafood restaurants. And yeah, so my experience was I did every single job besides in the kitchen, and I learned a lot. I learned, what goes into each and every job, the things that are hard, the things that can be expected of each and every single person. And so, yeah, when I was managing, I could talk to any worker except for the kitchen and say, hey, I have a good idea what's, possible. And, yes, you're doing a lot, you're doing great. Or I could also be like, hey, we know, more can be done or whatever it is, like, or this is an issue. This is not working for our system. And so in the big picture, it was a well-oiled machine and my creativity was super limited. And I would have like some, I'd say, really creative ideas. And my dad would really have the attitude of like, hey, everything's working as is. And so, yeah, that was kind of where I think another big driving factor was I was like, the schedule of a restaurateur is it's nonstop. I mean, it's your whole day. There is no schedule. I mean, there's times I had to be at work to clock in, clock out, but it's not like when I went home, um, work was not still part of what I had like as a responsibility when I was managing or running the restaurant. And again, I'd seen my dad his whole life, live the restaurant lifestyle, and it's something I always wanted, and growing up. But then I realized that that restaurant, everything he was doing was limited to our small town of San Luis Obispo, and a lot of my ideas and creativity, like I wanted my ideas or my thoughts or to attempt what I wanted to do, like at the scale of the USA or the world, like those were what I saw possible. And so at a young age, I really, learned how to use the internet pretty well, and was doing some side hustles along the way along this restaurant career. And I had a business partner starting at 13 where we were buying and selling basketball cards on eBay. And, that kind of took off into event tickets and just kind of expanded. And so I got to a point where I was kind of, dreading the restaurants and like not enjoying it. And I didn't feel that it wasn't my passion, is what I was realizing pretty fast. And
Yeah, it's
yeah,
it's interesting when you're the offspring of an entrepreneur that
yeah,
and they want you to kind of carry on that business. It seems like oftentimes when it's your turn to run it, a lot of that fun stuff has already been done because like I use the word fun like kind of loosely. I think like when you start a business, a lot of the struggles, the ups and downs, what makes it worthwhile, what makes it all like worth it in the end is that kind of fun stuff. Like when you're being creative and you have to find different ways of competing with other people and trying to do things kind of differently. And the idea of like execution, timing, innovation, marketing, and branding. Like I feel like a lot of that stuff had already been done by your dad. And by the point, by the time he wanted you to run it, it's like, cool. Now you're just like kind of managing it. And like you said, you have a lot of creativity, which that could have also come from your father. So you're now looking for like an outlet. It seems like that outlet was this ticket selling business.
yeah. And so I always was a hustler, like on the side. Like and it's not like anyone told me, hey, go do this. It was always like, my own ideas or like collaborations with um, my first business partner, James, or like with my dad, we would walk our dog every night, and we lived on a golf course, and we would collect golf balls and sell them back to that golf course and then also to the other golf courses. And then I would take out the best golf balls that were, Pro V1s, and I could sell those on eBay for, you know, way more money. So I was, that we were doing that every single night. And so that was, um, you know, my dad always encouraged the, being, having your own ideas and like pursuing them. So like that was how I worked. Like we would be like, hey, let's go get some golf balls. And like he was a big golfer. So he already knew, he's like, okay, this is where all the people are going to hit out of bounds. And he was friends with the owner of the golf course. So we had permission to go down onto the golf course at night, walk our dog, and collect a bunch of golf balls. And so we did that for years, like a few years. And this is when I was like probably 12, 13, 14, 15. And these walks with my dad were not just the goal was not to get golf balls, but that was a byproduct. That was like, and I made some good money with it. But like those walks were just, I grew up in a family of a blend of 5 kids, and that was kind of my, alone time with my dad. It was like us on these walks. So just be, sometimes some other kids would go, but like, we're hiking through the out of bounds areas of a golf course that's super hilly. And so we're looking for golf balls. So that was our bonding, kind of talk about life, talk about whatever was on my mind, whatever was on his mind. And yeah, really just bond. And, that was our quality time.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so we were looking for golf balls, but then kept, later at some point in my life, I was selling like avocados from my neighbor's tree. And then when I got my business partner, James, like we started by like literally, like recycling and dumpster diving for recycling. Like he grew up in San Luis near Cal Poly where all the parties were. And we would go knock on houses and say, hey, we'll clean up all your parties' cans. And these college kids were stoked. Like, they're like, you're going to clean up my house? We're like, yeah. And we're stoked because we're like, oh, we're going to recycle all of these cans. And so then we got into some painting addresses on, the curbs. And that was a good one. And like, so just kind of evolved. And then, we kind of always just kept finding what we thought was like, okay, this is worth our time more. So let's focus more on it. So, then we started getting more online and doing, basketball cards, and we were able to scale that business, at the age of 14, I'd say pretty large. I don't even remember the numbers, but, and then, yeah, it turned into tickets, and, we're using all of our own money, draining our bank accounts, buying a couple tickets because, however much money we had, we'd buy a couple tickets and, just kept bankrolling it and had a lot of success at a young age. And I think one of the best things were like, I was not afraid to fail at all. And James was a really good supporter where he was like all in on like my ideas, but he also could like pull me back from like, going too far. And like, there's like definitely a healthy balance that's needed sometimes, because you can be really aggressive and have, big ideas, but you can also collapse if you go too far.
Yeah. Can you tell me about any ideas that you said your dad always encouraged you to have ideas and pursue them. Can you tell me about any ideas that didn't pan out?
Yeah. I don't I don't know if there's any one particular idea that didn't pan out, but like a lot of different aspects or like ideas within a business or a project that did not pan out. It happened multiple times. One that really was a funny one, and my dad even tried to warn me of like from his own lessons, and I didn't listen, and he was like, okay, which I respect that. He tried to give me some advice. So at the time, I think I was 16 or 17, and the family restaurant had a taco booth that was at a farmer's market on Fridays at the beach in Avila Beach, and it was a really fun farmer's market. And we were like the most popular booth selling fish tacos, and it was myself and like all my friends, like even Julian. Julian worked there for a little bit. He burned all the tortillas for the fish tacos, and he wasn't there too long. But it was just all the friends, so we'd have a good time working together. All my best friends, and um, we got to a point where we are like, hey, I think we could sell some cool T-shirts that say like, "Follow me for $2 off," a fish taco, or $1 off fish taco, and people will buy these shirts, and then they'll also wear them, and they'll get discounts. And then on Friday, people will be walking all over with these shirts, and people are gonna be like, "Oh, like what's up with that shirt?" So James and we were like, okay, we're gonna make some shirts and tank tops, and we got like someone to take us some professional photos of fish tacos, and the photos looked really good. Found a shirt company and locally, and we printed in our first order, I'm just guessing, probably 300 or 400 shirts. And we had like taken surveys from people at the fish taco booth, and like everyone was just telling us like, oh yeah, I'd buy that. I'd buy that. I'd buy this. We're just like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a home run. So my dad was like, hey, maybe start with like 50 shirts, maybe like 100 and like kind of see how it goes. And I was like, no, dad, like everyone's, they're all going to buy it. Like they're all saying they're going to buy it. And he was like, okay, like, you do you. So I'm like, okay. So we buy like 400 shirts. And I think out of the shirts, I think maybe like 100 or 150 were tank tops. And so then we start selling them, and we started off all right because like, a lot of these people came every week. So we started off, and like some of the locals and like the diehards, like they all bought a shirt, and we like started off kind of good. We're like, hell yeah, this is gonna be so good. And then it really died off because then no one was buying a shirt like really at all. And I was like, oh crap, like, okay, well, I don't know, and then I realized, I was like, oh man, all these people, they were just telling me like, yeah, we'd buy that, like just out of excitement. And like, I don't know, maybe they didn't want to crush my dreams, or like, I was 16-year-old kid, and I had a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of excitement. So I don't know, but it didn't translate to sales how we had thought. But the funny thing was, we sold out of tank tops because years later, so we sold, maybe about 400. Maybe we sold like 60 of them, 70 of them. I don't even know. Maybe a little bit more, not sure, but not enough to get our money back. We lost money. And so then we just have these boxes of shirts just sitting there. And like a couple years later, I'm just like, man, this is awful. Like I got these shirts. I don't even want to look at them anymore. They kind of piss me off. Like, that I have these in my possession. And I went, well, before donating them, I started listing some on eBay, and the tank tops started like selling really well because like, I guess it kind of looked like a frat tank top in a way, but we literally put frat tank top in the description. And so the tank tops were doing great. And so however many of those we'd sold some, and we're pretty like stoked about that, but we couldn't even sell a t-shirt. And we ended up just donating all of them locally to Goodwill because we just didn't want them, in our site anymore, in our garage. So yeah, that one did not pan out. I think there's a lot of situations like that it's not like it went bad, but what sometimes like is a hard thing to gauge is when you're really excited and you have a lot of, you feel like, okay, I'm about to make this decision, I'm going to do it. Sometimes being over expecting the results. And so, not starting small, but like starting big. I've had that happen in other situations too. But yeah, so that one was one that I remember. Overall though, I try a lot of things in my businesses, and when things don't go right, I don't really think of it as like it went bad or like that was a bad idea. I'm still glad I attempted it because like as I try like 5, 6 things, 1 or 2 things might really stick and really advance the business in a way that would have never happened if I was not trying to be, pursuing just a bunch of, creative ideas or like kind of out of the box ideas. Like
Definitely.
in every
So,
business I've been in, like I've had major losses, I've had major successes. So yeah.
so then after an experience like that, maybe that was one that kind of stuck with you. What do you look for when you're in the process of considering which ideas to pursue and which not?
Yeah. So if like when I was in my ticket business, if I have any ideas in my ticket business, I kind of pursue all of them. I have a very large team, a lot of support, and a lot of people that can take my ideas, or at one in particular. My um, business partner currently is Zach Hogan, who I also grew up with, and so he really can help support and take my ideas and add processes around them, or get the help needed to make those things happen. So when it comes to ticketing, I pursue almost every idea. And I've been doing it for so long that when I do think of a new idea, they're not too out there. They're kind of, maybe not how other people are doing things, but it has a very low like cost of trying, and the upside is extremely large. And but when it comes to my other businesses, I have an NFT business where I buy and sell digital art and also some physical art too. I did a lot of that during Corona, taking my time. I love art, so that was what drew me to learn a lot about that during Corona. So in my pickleball business and in my art business, I take way more calculated risks. Like I'm not trying to just do everything all the time because it stretches a lot of my available energy and like how much time I can actually focus on, these ideas. And it's a lot more of me actually doing the legwork and everything around it on my own with the art business. And then with the pickleball business, if I have an idea, I have to put together the process. I have to, do a lot of the legwork to make things happen. I do have support from people, that are, part-time or independent contractors to help us throughout the whole business. But yeah, it's a lot more work. So before I get into one of them, I really think it out. I talk to some people that I like to bounce my ideas off of. That have just known me, a long time and can really give me their opinion. I have like a small, my family and friends, just really small group where I'm like, hey, this is what I'm thinking. This is what I want to do. And they'll listen to me and give me their feedback. And yeah, so I do a lot of thought before I even pursue a certain thing. Like, and also with the pickleball business, because we're a new brand and this is the first time I'm like actually being a customer facing brand. Every other business I've been in besides the restaurant, I've been more behind the scenes. I've been very, calculated on like, okay, this is my creative idea for this. This is my creative idea for this part, but I don't want to have 20 different creative ideas because as a new business, it just looks like you'd be all over the place. So really just focusing on a couple and then bringing them, to light. Like the Andiamo push button, like, that is something that we give out in our signature gift boxes with Volair paddles. And it's a push button that has Julian yelling some of his, phrases, Andiamo, let's go, vi, like, and so, that one came alive because of, I'm really good at like seeing something that exists and being able to like improve it. Like I'm not coming up with these things out of nowhere. I guess I like to improve what I've already been exposed to. So like my mom had gotten me a while ago a push button of Donald Trump saying you're fired, and like from the Apprentice show. And so I would have that button and I never really used it, but in my closet, and like I would click it as like, like never used it on someone as like, you're fired, because that would just be like the weirdest way to fire someone with a freaking push button of Donald Trump. But I thought it was a funny thing. And, that idea was just like, okay, well, Julian's the only person that yells, a lot of these phrases. Some people might have like a couple things they yell, have a catchphrase, but like Julian, like that's, a lot of his energy. He's, a loud, passionate performer. And, yeah, that was just like, oh, I think that'd be really funny. I think people would push this. I think it would be just something creative and unique. Like I haven't seen that in the pickleball world, but if anyone's going to have a push button, it would be Julian. So, but I'm not trying to do like 30 of those different funny things at the same time because I just don't think that the business, being so new would, look like we know what we got going on.
Yeah, definitely. Between your NFT business and the pickleball business, how are you prioritizing between those two businesses, and also, I guess, in kind of as far as like work-life balance too? How are
Yeah.
you managing all three of those?
Yeah. So I I really don't like schedules. I'm not really like a schedule person. I'm a pretty free flower, but I love to work. Like working is like when I am working, I like, I'm not doing projects or no one's telling me, hey, you need to do this. Like everything I'm working on, it's, a lot of it's my ideas and like, like my own creativity where I'm like, okay, this is fun, like a lot of fun. So if I'm wrapped up in something, like I can work on it endless hours, like, like an unhealthy amount of hours. If like in the ticketing world, if there's something I'm like, oh, this is what I'm working on. Like I can work on something for 3 days, 12 hours a day for 3 days straight. And it could be one thing, and so that's how I've worked in the past. And now that the pickleball business is, part of my businesses that I run, it's a little different. I'm connecting with a lot more other people. So it's, there is a little more scheduling going on. But, when I wake up, I have a to-do list of things. Like I will only put something on my to-do list if I know I have to do it, like by a certain day. And then those are the things that I attempt to, make sure I actually do. Like I have a meeting, I have to do it. I have to ship something out by this date. Okay, I have to do it. So those are the first things I look at. And then after that, I kind of fill in my time with, um, you know, I jump around businesses, or I'll focus on one. Really, I put my effort wherever I feel is either the biggest thing that I want to improve, or the the biggest project where I think it has the best return, like for success and money. So like the pickleball business, like I'm not trying to go make as much money as I possibly can right now. Like the goal is to like become a respected brand in pickleball, and have good products, do the right things, and kind of worry about money later, the profits later. Because if I put out a good product and good content, and it's really consistent and everyone's enjoying it, like I know that later the money will come. So this business, it's so new that like right now I'm investing. So yeah, it's pretty much try to have as little of a schedule as possible. I put all my meetings on Wednesday if possible. And then I've been putting more time into training for my ticket business, because I'm trying to get that to run itself in the next year and a half, and kind of have like minimal input from myself. And like right now, it still relies on me to do really well. So right now, that's been a main focus of mine. Is like, so right now I'm doing on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm doing like a couple hour training session in the morning. And I'm going to keep doing that. And I'm training 5 people at the same time that are 5 of our stronger workers, to really learn a lot of high level things that are like kind of, I've been like keeping like to myself and like in my head, because I've had fears of like, if I train someone how to do these things, they can go run off and just do it without me. And that is still possible, and it's happened in the past. But these 5 ladies I'm working with right now, like I've been working with them for 5 years, and I'm just super excited to like teach them everything I know, because they're so bright, and I know that will allow that business to continue to grow without me really need to put a lot of work and time into it. So and then with Volair right now, everything, because it's a business where I have not dealt with customers as much, where I'm like a customer facing, I'm learning a lot right now as I go. So like I'm pretty much trying to work on one major project at a time, maybe 2, but I don't want to like try to tackle all, 10 things that I do want to tackle all at the same time. Because I just want to have all the content and product be just very high level, and not try to like spread my energy too thin, where we're putting out, possibly a bunch of crap that is going to just, not help us succeed. So like
Yeah.
the first priority overall for the paddle company was like the paddle itself. And so, we came out with our first paddle, the Mach 1, Julian's signature paddle. And, right now we are getting a lot of good feedback on that. We are making a little tweaks. But overall, like, we're like, okay, cool. Our paddle's good. It's high quality. People are enjoying it at all levels. And so then like, I'm like working on the next things, and like the next big thing we're working on right now is we're putting together our ambassador program, which we'll be releasing in the next few weeks. And so that's been taking up a lot of my focus now. So I guess, how do I divvy up my time? It's mostly project based, and but starting with what I would consider the things I have to do. And then it's me flowing between, okay, I want to work on this project, or this project is my highest priority for this business. And right now, the pickleball business is my passion project. So it's getting a lot of my attention. Um, and so, yeah, so I can't help but, think through a lot of situations or ideas for the pickleball company, like all throughout the day. Um, that's
Yeah,
that's where my mind goes when I'm being creative, and not, sitting at a computer.
definitely. When you were talking about how you want your ticket business to be self-sufficient essentially, and you're going through training right now and you have these five ladies that you want to be really successful, and considering the fact that you don't have children right now, like what is something that you want them to know about the business that you don't think that they can learn from training or books?
Something I want them to know that they can't learn from training or books. Um, that as you, I mean, I tell them this all the time, but like, it's a never ending learning. Like, there's no end. Like, hey, I know everything. Like in the ticketing world, it's ever evolving. Um, and so just being able to be flexible to know, hey, this might be working now, but always be looking for ways to improve, or like be open to other ideas to make things happen. Because in the ticketing world, there is not a blueprint of this is how you do it to succeed. Like, there is 100 ways to play the game. There's more than 100 ways. There's 100 ways to succeed in the ticketing world. And some people focus just on one aspect. Some people focus on 10. Some people try to do all of them. And, overall, like, just because I taught them how to do something one way doesn't mean don't be open to that there might be other or better ways to do it. And to, when you test it in the ticketing world, you can test it on a very small sample size and figure out if the mechanics even work or not. Um, but yeah, so I just say, just be open to that. There could be better ways to do things than, because again, everything I know is from trial and error. No one told me how to do it. So like, there are better ways to do things, and I just don't know what they are. So yeah, just being open to that, because, they look at me as like, oh, you're the boss. You've been doing this since you were 13. If Ryan teaches me this, then this is the best way. And as of now, it's the best way I'm aware of, is more of the, not like the lesson I'd be saying for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love that. Speaking of better ways of doing things, Volair is, I think, a newcomer to the pickleball hardware and technology game, coming out in 2022. Like, what is something that you saw as deficient
Yeah.
in either like the pickleball paddle businesses? Um, yeah, I think, like, what do you think was like missing, and like kind of like how did you think that coming out with Volair would be more successful or different in what
Yeah,
it could contribute to this sport?
definitely. So when Julian and I both said, hey, we're gonna, pursue this full time, I sent him to a trainer, and the trainer was like, hey, your buddy doesn't know what he's doing, and he's like top 10 right now. And I was like, okay. And I was like, okay, do we pursue this? And he was like, yes, you guys should pursue this. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, again, the main thing was like, we didn't want to potentially have a falling out based on us pursuing something that we didn't have a chance to succeed at. So that was our first thing. And so I was Julian's financial supporter throughout his, first year of pickleball. And so, I had him move in with me in Austin. I was like, hey, move to Austin. You're on the road most of the year anyways. But so he went to all these tournaments and is competing, across the APP and PPA and MLP. And yeah, we started off with Julian was using Electrum. Julian's girlfriend, Lauren, was sponsored by Electrum. So, we kind of had a connection there. And Julian was using the Model E. And I was doing Julian's, like I was communicating with the paddle companies or other potential sponsors. So I was, doing managing also. And as I was communicating with them, certain companies, some of the ones we wanted to talk to, or the ones we did talk to, there was just an extreme lack in professionalism of communicating with pros or pros agents. And so it was really frustrating trying to, pursue certain things. And we were betting on ourselves from the start. Like that's how I've always been. And, Julian's a competitor. And so we got, some offers and we looked down, we're like, no, we're going to be top 10 next year. Like and we knew that. And so I told him, I was like, hey, we're going to pass for now on whatever the offers were that we got. And we know that, bigger offers might come if we accomplish what we think we can do. And so there was like lack of professionalism on the business side. And so that was really frustrating. And so the first thing I was thinking is I was like, man, I know how to handle these conversations. I know how to make sure that these players feel heard and that they're part of the team and they're not just, being used, I guess. And besides that, it's like, here's paddles. Besides that, we don't talk to you. We don't communicate. So that was a little frustrating, but also what we saw is the technology changing and just new paddles coming out that we liked better. And we felt that if we got locked into a contract, which would be a year or 2 years, that we could get locked in with a paddle company where, they don't advance their paddle in that next year and that there is a better tool out there and Julian can't use it because he's signed by a certain paddle company. And we saw that with a lot of paddle companies in the last year and a half, like certain players signed by, some of the bigger paddle companies, they hadn't released a carbon fiber, T700 paddle yet. And we all felt that they were at a disadvantage and we didn't want Julian to be locked into something that he wouldn't be able to have say and say, hey, we can change this. Let's, stay with the times. Let's, innovate. Let's, try what's going on or, be able to like, just, I didn't want Julian to not be able to compete at the highest level with the best tool. And so, we got to a point where we were like, okay, let's pursue this. Let's bet on ourselves. And I have excitement in, taking a couple loves of mine, which is pickleball and, business. And, after 8 months, we were having a lot of success, with Julian, competing at such a high level and having some, major tournament wins and being some really big names. So like we're like, okay, we're doing really good with our first project, which was like get top 10 in the year. And then got to the point where it's like, okay, do we want to pursue this? And Julian and I are, right now, we're still in the early process of it, but those were the main driving factors was the professionalism on the business side. And then the idea of being locked into a contract where we may not have the best paddle available in 6 months. That's what I'd say.
Absolutely. So, how are you doing things differently given that Volair has sponsored athletes?
Yeah. So right now we have four sponsored athletes, and I've known I've known Wes since one of Julian's first tournaments. And in the beginning of Julian's tournaments, I traveled with Julian, a couple times because him traveling all around the country was very new. He had not even been to like the East Coast before being a professional pickleball player. So got to know Wes really well. And just, I think everyone knows this. Wes is the nicest guy in pickleball. Like everybody loves Wes. Um, And so as we're talking about this, this idea, behind the scenes, I'm able to like reach out and like at least like gauge if there's any interest and see if that's something that, some of these other pros want to be a part of. And, you know, my main goal of like how to treat the players differently was to, they have direct access to me. They can have stuff to Julian too, but like for a lot of the operations and everything besides what Julian's, doing on the court and like representing Volair as the face of it, a lot of the stuff I'm doing, like they can directly reach out to me and say, hey, I have an idea or I have a question or what about this? And I've had a lot of really good conversations with every pro of like, just I don't know. I wouldn't consider it the typical, sponsored pro and business relationship. I'm not saying it's not out there. I know it is. Pickleball is a small sport overall, and the community is very tight. But just giving them that experience that like they matter, more than just their results, and that they're holding the paddle. So yeah, like that's how I've been treated different. Like I've been very prompt on anytime anyone's owed money, or that there's a deadline or what they're expected to do. Like I just have it very organized so that it doesn't feel chaotic or stressful for them. Whenever I feel that I'm like running behind on something, I just keep them updated and say, hey, this is not on track. We're going to have a new timeline soon, and just really keep them in the loop of what is going on, overall, just so that they know and that they, feel included, that they are part of the family. So, Wes, just stand-up guy, partnered with Julian at the very beginning of his career. His skill is for how much he was playing, when he first partnered with Julian, like he hadn't even practiced for months, and they went out there and competed pretty well. And I was like, Wes, you got to get back at this full time. Like I see what you can do. And, he knows what he can do. And so he's been training a lot more. And so, yeah, having Wes and then Emily, I never met Emily, but Emily went to Cal Poly, and Julian and I being from San Luis Obispo and Cal Poly being in San Luis Obispo, like right away, I'm like, I want to work with Emily. And Emily had played in a tournament with Julian a while ago, and had known Wes for a very long time. Emily just put together a really nice post about Wes and how she's known Wes. I forgot how many years, but like since Emily was extremely young. So that was really cool. I didn't know the extent of like how long they've known each other, but I think it went back to the days of Wes, I'm guessing, doing tennis. And then Grant, I had met in a tournament in Arizona, had dinner with him when I was out in Arizona with Julian, and just really nice guy. And so like when we were reaching out, like we reached out to people that we started with the people that we're like really good friends with, and, that they would understand that we are going to do all the things that we say we're going to do, because being a company that didn't exist yet, I did talk to some other, top pros that, obviously they know Julian, but they didn't know me. And so when I'm reaching out and trying to say all these things I'm going to do, I look at it and I say they shouldn't believe that I'm going to do all those things. And so the people we did connect with and did sign as of now, like they all believed in us before they even like had a paddle. Like pretty much, like Wes didn't even have a paddle. He never even tried it. And he's like, I'm going to sign with you guys. Like I just want to work with you guys. You guys are my friends. And we get along great. And so it was a lot more about the relationship than anything else with Wes. And he's like, I don't even care what paddle I have in my hand. I'll go compete. It doesn't matter. And I was like, oh, cool. So yeah, just really that's kind of how we're trying to do it different. And like right now, we might sign like another pro or two in the near future, but overall, like I think we're overall good with our like tournament pros as of now. That was we wanted to come out with a bang and have 4, 5, 6 pros all using the paddle at the beginning of when we release, just to show that it's not just Julian using a signature paddle. And so yeah, so that's kind of where we're at with like the pro aspect, and now we're going to focus on a lot of other aspects of the business because in the big picture, the what goes on at the pro level and following the pros, like it's a very small percentage of pickleball players. Like most pickleball players are, you're go to the park. I just want to get a good workout, and they may not follow the pros at all. So now I really want to tap into those different communities and really get our paddles into people's hands, because as of now everyone that's had our paddle, they really enjoy it. So I just want to get into as many hands as I can, and see what happens.
Yeah, I can definitely attest to that. Being around you in Austin, like me being able to try a paddle, but also like a lot of the people that we play with, everyone's really enjoying it. And you're talking about people who are using the Hyperion, using the other different lines of Yola.
Yeah.
They're using the diadems. They're using Electrum, a little bit of everything. And people are definitely seeing something a little bit different. And you do have a different way of looking at how to build relationships within business, and it's definitely showing in pickleball. Given you already have your pro talent figured out, is there something that you can tell us that you're doing differently with the ambassador program?
Well, so I've been learning a lot about ambassador programs the last, like 2, 3 weeks. Like, I don't know. I've been just literally reading everything I possibly can, and I'm learning how other ambassador programs kind of have worked. And yeah, I think we're going to be putting together an ambassador program that a couple ways I think it's going to be different. I think, well, what we're going to be giving out as a commission per paddle, it's going to be higher than anywhere I've seen. And that is like, I want people that, if first off, I want you to like the paddle, like before you even get into like, hey, I want to be an ambassador. Like, if you don't like the paddle, like, I don't want you trying to sell it. It just feels unauthentic at a certain point. So, after someone likes the paddle, being able to make, a good commission per paddle, I think is really important. I know there's a lot of ambassador programs out there, and I feel that if we don't have a good financial incentive, that people will be an ambassador and then see another ambassador program that might have a decent or good paddle, and just jump from one to another and really not become a Volair ambassador, where they're like really repping the company and are a part of our ambassador family, which I want someone to be an ambassador for as long as they enjoy playing pickleball. Um, so financial incentive is one way that we're going to come out of the gate and like say, hey, here's a pretty strong financial incentive, and your community gets like a 10% discount. So as they're selling these paddles, they get a commission, and their friend or family or whoever they are selling the paddle to also gets a little discount. And then on top of that, we are going to be, highlighting a lot of our ambassadors. And as we're doing now, like we have pro content, which we like to post, but like this Volair is not going to be the Julian show. Like as we continue to grow, Volair, the goal is for Volair to be, Julian to be, he is a co-founder, and he's going to always have input and be doing a lot of the testing on the paddle side, and just testing everything, and really being our feedback, because he is just so dialed in with how things feel and what he prefers. And so we want to highlight a lot of our ambassadors, highlight their successes, and on top of that, we don't, like, right now we don't have any merch available yet, but we will later. I know right now we're going to incentivize where it's like after you sell 10 paddles, that you're going to get one of our tour bags in either black or blue. And so those will be available at the end of February, hopefully. And and those bags are pretty cool. So just as they continue to sell paddles, like there's going to be just other things like the bag. But then, like, I don't want to like say this is, I'm not going to put this in our ambassador program, like I guess like in the pitch. I'm not going to say, hey, top person gets this or that. But some of our ambassadors, anyone that goes above and beyond, like I'm going to go out of my way to do stuff special just to make them feel that that their work is appreciated, and things like that. Things that could happen would be like um like private lesson with Julian, or come to one of our camps, or um, you know things like that, where they get to interact with some of the pros at the highest level. um, Whether it's playing games with them, or um, I don't know, coming to some Volair celebration. um, yeah, so it's kind of, I don't have anything set in stone. Is kind of what I'm getting at, but I want to do things like that to really reward people that are going above and beyond.
Yeah, and I think people will definitely appreciate that. And we're coming up on the hour, so now you can kind of plug away. Like, where can people find out more about Volair? And hell, if you want to even plug your ticket business, I know like tickets
Yeah.
now are getting crazy. So yeah, plug away, man.
Yeah. So for pickleball, you can follow us at Volair Pickleball on Instagram. And that's right now, Instagram is like our main social that we're updating the most. We're going to start doing a little bit more content on TikTok and Facebook. Um, but when it comes to the ticket company, I don't have anything to plug. I'm a behind the scenes company that just helps supply inventory for a lot of the secondary websites. So I don't even have a direct website, but yeah, no, we're gonna have the information for the ambassador program announced in the next couple of weeks, and we'll do some posts on Instagram about how to apply. And we'd love for everyone to apply and really, first off, get to experience our paddle, but then also, you know, rep our brand, and hopefully make a little bit of money along the way. But no, thank you so much for having me, and this was fun. Got to go down memory lane a little bit on some different situations that I haven't thought about, in a while, or been prompted to answer in a while.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad we could capture kind of some of your history and your entrepreneurial spirit and your brain and the way you look at things. I think this has definitely been uh, very exciting one, something that I learned a lot about. Even though I've known you for like 2 years, these are things that I don't get to normally experience. But really appreciate your time today, and excited to push this one out and have everyone listen. If you have any last final words, feel free.
Um, I don't know anyone that stopped playing pickleball, for the most part. So, pickleball is going to keep growing, and this is it's a passion of mine, and it's a passion of yours, and that's why we're doing things like this interview. And I just I love the pickleball community. I've never experienced so much support from people I don't even know. It's awesome. We've had a lot of reach out and say, hey, like, how can I help you? Like, I want to support Julian and you in any way we can. And so thank you to everyone that has helped us get to where we're at now, and who's going to help us, continue to be relevant in this sport that's just absolutely exploding.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks again for your time, and have a good one, everyone.
Awesome. Have a good day.